Well, I've been talking and writing about Ben Carson and the way he has handled the media criticism and the media attacks on his very inspiring life story. You know, one of the questions I asked him in our interview in Milwaukee was, why did you put all this stuff in your book? Why did you choose to tell the world that you would come close to hitting your mother with a hammer, that you had stabbed a friend, turned out to be a close relative, and his belt buckle in Carson's telling stopped him from being wounded or perhaps killed? That you had these other, you hit somebody in the face. Why did you share all that? And he said, because I believe in full disclosure, and besides, if I hadn't put that out, somebody else would have discovered it and would have said, do you know what this guy did? And it would have looked like something of a cover-up. Well, an interesting tweet, because Carson and I talked about three news organizations, the Wall Street Journal, first of all, CNN, and Politico, all of which ran stories poking holes in his life story, attempting to, I should say, because in each case, those stories fell short. In some cases, Dr. Carson was able to provide evidence or corroboration that what he said happened did in fact happen, including an old interview with his mother talking about the stabbing incident. So on Twitter, a lot of you have chosen to sound off at Howard Kurtz, and got a tweet from Carol Rawlings, who says, do you think Wall Street Journal doesn't have their own Republican choices, that is, Rubio, Kasich, instead of Carson? Come on. Well, here's what I want to say about that. The Wall Street Journal editorial page is a very opinionated, conservative editorial page, which may well have its own preferences. It has been whacking Donald Trump, for example, and maybe the Wall Street Journal isn't a big fan of Dr. Carson on the editorial page, and maybe does have sympathy for Rubio and Kasich and Cruz and others. Although I think that the page has tangled with Ted Cruz as well. The story we're talking about, which happened to do with a course that Carson took when he was in college, and there was a bit of a hoax where he was told he had to take a retest, and it was a very tough retest, and he says he's the only student who showed up. As a result, he got $10 and was called the most honest student on campus. And the Journal kind of had skepticism whether this happened, and Carson found others who said that it did happen. But here's the thing. That's the news pages of the Wall Street Journal. Those are the reporters raising those questions. They don't toe some ideological line. I know a lot of you have trouble believing this about newspapers. You say, well, New York Times editorial page is liberal, all the reporters must be liberal. Maybe some of them are, but there is a church and state separation at newspapers. And I've heard people say, kind of admiringly of the Wall Street Journal, it's the best two newspapers you can buy for the price of one, meaning you get the very opinionated Wall Street Journal and editorial page and all its columnists. At the same time, you get reporters who are reporters, and they go after Republicans and they go after Democrats. I mean, good reporters like Jerry Seib, the Washington bureau chief, and others, Carol Lee, White House correspondent, who's been on my program. So the Wall Street Journal, like every newspaper, certainly has opinions. The goal for news organizations is to keep those opinions limited to the opinion shows on television, to the editorial page on newspapers and the op-ed columns, and not have them pollute the news pages.